Okay, class. Break is over. We're going to proceed from the Understanding of Movies by Giannetti, Chapter 4 on editing. Now, as I walked into the class, I noticed that you all was having a discussion, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the most important things that you must remember as actors is that you try to minimize overlap in dialogue. You have to wait the best that you can through discipline for the other person to finish their thought, their idea, without being intrusive. All right? Because it could be annoying to the audience. So just try to control your passion, no overlap in dialogue. And we've taken Introduction to Communication courses, right? As well as Nonverbal Communication, which deals with expression, how people act, things people do physically without speaking a word. So body language is very important to acting as well. God has given us 2 ears, so we should listen twice as much as we speak. All right? So that's just a little constructive criticism on my part when I came in and saw y'all having a dramatic discussion, which was excellent. But just try to respect each other's ideas and wait till the next person finishes their line before you continue. So here we are. So far, we've been concerned with cinematic communication as it relates to the single shot, the basic unit of construction in movies. Ms. Young, what does he mean by the basic unit of construction in movie is the single shot?
I think he meant that having continuity in a scene, in the flow of the scene, is in one shot.
Right. So a story told cinematically has a basic structure, a basic unit, and that is the shot. So the editor in post-production assembles all of these different shots. What is a basic unit of a sentence?
The subject.
How about a word?
Okay.
A word, right?
A word.
A sentence is made up of words, and word is made up of alphabets, characters. See how that works? Mm-hmm. So the basic unit of construction in cinema is the shot. Except for traveling shots and lengthy takes, however, shots in film tend to acquire meaning when they are juxtaposed with other shots and structured into an edited sequence. What does that mean? Juxtapose. Each shots. What does it mean, juxtapose and put together in an order that makes sense to tell a story? What are they trying to say? Yes.
I believe that they speak in reference of structure, back to structure.
So in other words, you've gone out in the field and you've taken all these shots. You look at your shots, your footage, in the editing room, and you prepare to put all of these shots together. Some you're going to keep, and some you're going to omit. All right? So essential. Physically, editing is simply joining one strip of film or shot with another. On the most mechanical level, editing eliminates unnecessary time and space. Through the association of ideas, editing connects one shot with another, one scene with another, and so on. Simple as this may now seem, the convention of editing represents what critic Terry Ramsey referred to as the syntax of cinema. It's grammatical language. We spoke about that earlier. Like linguistic syntax, the syntax of editing must be learned. We do not possess it innately, according to the author. Now you have continuity, a whole different area now. In the earlier years of cinema, the late 1890s, movies were brief, consisting of short events, photographed in long shots, in a single take. That is what Celso is doing right now. He's taking my narrative right now in one single continuous shot. In the post-production part, when I look at the shot, I'm gonna have taken insert shots of each of you in the audience, in the classroom, and assemble it together to superimpose in the single take that he took of me in my narration. The duration of the shot and the event were equal. Soon filmmakers began to tell stories. Simple ones, it's true, but requiring more than a single shot. Scholars have traced the development of narrative to filmmakers in France, Belgium, and the United States. By the early 20th century, filmmakers had already devised a functional style of editing we now call cutting to continuity. This type of cutting is the technique used in most fiction films even today, if only for exposition scenes. Essentially, this style of editing is a kind of shorthand consisting of time-honored conventions. Continuity cutting tries to preserve the fluidity of an event without literally showing all of it. Okay, so we got jump cut, we got establishing shot. They speak about D.W. Griffith's classical cutting style in The Birth of a Nation. He talks about close-up shots, medium shots, establishing shot, re-establishing shots. So we can go on and on with this particular chapter. So let's have a discussion on editing, right? A shot is meaningless without what, Miss Young? What do you need first of all?
Characters.
You need characters. Right. You need a story, an idea, a story idea. Do we need characters interacting with each other?
Yes.
Can a character interact with themselves?
Yes.
With themselves?
Yes.
Norman Bates did it, right? In Psycho. Right? He had two different personalities. All right? So in communications, that's considered the intrapersonal communication, communicating with yourself. Interpersonal means communicating with someone else. Then you have small group, public communication, and mass communication. All of this comes into play when you're dealing with this course as well, advanced filmmaking. All of these elements that you studied earlier, they all come together to give meaning to this course of filmmaking. Now we've all learned the tridimensionality of a character. What are they? Tridimensionality of a character. What's the first one?
Social.
Psychological.
Say it louder.
Social,
Psychological
And
physical. Right? So when you introduce a character into a particular scene for the first time, you need to give that character a description. Mr. Young, 5'5", 150 pounds, brown hair, weighs such and such, is seated on a park bench. You got it?
Yes.
So, and then we have the slug or the scene line, right? What do we say is the first thing that you number coming into a scene? You fade in, colon, in caps. First scene, number one. Interior or exterior, wherever it is. It could be an establishing shot.
Okay.
Location, time of day. This is what we covered last week. All right? That's how you begin to write a screenplay. Number the scene. Whether it's interior or exterior. Location. Time of day. All of that is flush left. Then flush left, the narrative. You skip a line. Seated is Mr. Young, a slender 5'5", 150-pound African American with an afro. Surrounding him in the park are pigeons. He pulls a piece of cracker out of his pocket and begins to feed the pigeons as his girlfriend Susan enters the scene. You see what's going on here? In the middle you center it in caps. Anytime you introduce your character, it has to be in caps. And ideally what you want to do before you even begin to write your script, or afterwards, depending, because your character, like we, as real world characters, are works in progress. Aren't we works in progress? Mm-hmm. So your characters are also works in progress in your mind as you develop your script. So you want to have a biography of your character, because people have a certain proclivities to do certain things under different types of situations. So the more you know about a character biographically that you've created, the more sense the plot and structure of your story would make. All right? So your biography explains Miss Young, talented dancer. Juliet Bound was raised in an impoverished neighborhood in the Bronx. She's overcome so many obstacles. She has many enemies as well as many friends. But as she aspires to attain fame and greatness at Juilliard as a dancer, those who are envious of her begin to give her obstacles, create obstacles for her, conflict, because they're jealous. But her closest friends and relatives and peer dancers, they love her. So here's the conflict. The conflict between your enemies who do not want to see you succeed and those who are your protagonist friends who want you to succeed. Is that conflict? Yeah. Yes, it is. Now, she comes over to him. He just fed the pigeon. In the middle is Susan in caps. And then in parentheticals, you have adjective or verb describing his state of mind. Sadly, she's mournful, whatever. And then the dialogue. Whatever the character, we gave a character a name, and she says, here's the dialogue. Everything is centered now. Susan, I understand that you've been accepted to Juilliard. Are you going to respond to them right away? Susan, enthusiastically, in parentheses. That puts the character within that frame of mind. Oh, most definitely, I'm going to Juilliard. But you know, I got enemies out there that do not want me to succeed. And then he says, and then to the side you could say, he looks like surprised. And then he responds, oh, I got your back, honey. I know you're gonna make it. I got some people that could support you as well if you need a letter of recommendation. So on and so forth. So you see how the screenplay goes? So that's only Act 1. It continues. And that's only one scene. Exterior, in the park. Then we're going to go to scene number 2. You have to label it. Interior, no. Establishing shot. Susan's mother's home. Day. You describe Susan's mother is a gray-haired, 65-year-old African American with an apron. She's in the kitchen preparing a meal as the telephone rings. You got it? Ring. She walks over to the telephone, picks it up. You have to be specific in your screenplay. Do not leave anything up to chance, or you're going to relegate your script to the director, who's going to think it out for you. Hello? No, you want complete rights to how you want this thing shot. The telephone rings, the grandmother picks it up. Grandmother. Hello? Voiceover. Susan. Hi, Mom. I've been accepted to Juilliard School of Music. Mother. Well, that's wonderful, honey. Are you gonna accept? Are you going in? Voiceover. Susan. Yes, Mom. I have till December 25th, which coincidentally is Christmas, and Santa Claus has arrived early, Mama, and I'm going to go to Juilliard. Yes, but I'm gonna need many, many letters of support. But honey, how about all those jealous friends that you grew up with? How you gonna deal with them? Don't worry, Mama, I got this covered. John's gonna help me out. I got my peer dancers, they're gonna look out for me. So all of that is happening within the introductory part of your movie. And then it continues, it continues, it continues, the plot thickens. Then at the end of the first act, which is 25% of your total script, a decision has to be made to propel you to the second act. Alright? The protagonist is put into a situation which probably could be anticlimactic crisis, and the plot thickens in Act 2, which is the main portion of your script. Things happen, you go to different scenes, and we just read that a good movie has from 24 to 25 scenes. Didn't we read that? Mm-hmm. And 1 page of screenwriting on average is 1 minute of screen time when you put everything together on average. Alright, so at the end of part 2 or act 2, at the end of that, you're going to get another rise in action, climatic action, conflict, with no solution yet, but we're getting towards the solution. And then in act 3, which is the final act, which is 25% of your screenplay, things begin to unravel. You reach a resolution quickly. Don't keep your audience dangling. You got to wrap this up. All right? And then at the very end, you can have an epilogue where you have a flashback sequence where she's at the graduating line, at graduation, picking up her diploma, and then a quick dissolve to her career as a dancer with Alex, what is it, Alvin Haley? Dance? Alvin Haley. So that's basically how this thing works. Any questions, class?
Yes.
Yeah, speak up now.
At the beginning, you gave a rundown of the beginning, or did you say it was 3 setups for a scene? And what would they be?
The scene setups? You mean from this book right here, what we just read?
Yes. You said the intro, for the intro.
Oh, well, in this particular case, I was giving you a sample script off the top of my head.
But I'm saying, what were they called? You said the first was location, time of day, and the number of scenes.
Yes, this is called the slug in the screenplay. You number your scene. 1. It could be exterior in Prospect Park. Day. Got it? Scene number. whether it's inside or outside, on establishing shot. Location, where are you? Time of day. And then you have your narrative to describe your characters as they're first introduced and what is going on in that scene. So the clearer and the more simplistic that you write, the less arduous it will be when your camera people, your director go on the scene and shoot what it is that you've written. You get it?
Okay.
So that's basically the elements of good screenwriting. And it takes work. But the first thing that you have to do is to be able to write your story before you even do the screenplay for it. With like interesting plot points. Introduce your characters briefly and what happens with the scenes. The reason you see like 24 to 25 scenes in a 120-minute motion picture is because scenes tend to repeat themselves. So the reason you label scenes is because you're going to have, when you do a scheduling of your characters, your actors, you have a scheduling chart, right? It's like a type of a business management chart, or what they call a Gantt chart in production, in building design. You got to have timetables in terms of things happen, when things happen. You know, you dig out the earth and then you bring mortar into it to lay the foundation, things of that sort. You get the point, right? So in the construction industry, things happen in sequence because you have to bring in different elements of a project that's going to contribute to the overall project, and people who have their own expertise in doing things and the order in which they do it. So each scene, scene one, Susan's out, or in the park. Susan and her boyfriend. All right, so you might go back to the park with him in scene 3. You might go back to him in scene 3. But you're not locked down to just 25 scenes. All right, this is Professor McAllister. I'm back. I'm reading a short interview here conducted by George Stevens Jr. of director Peter Bogdanovich. And Miss Young was just reading, but she had to step away early. She had to go to work, so I'm going to continue where she left off. Okay, so he says you can cut almost anything together in 30 different ways if you have enough footage. But that doesn't mean it's the right way to play the scene. The one thing that the old-timers spoke about most often was their pride in being able to make films quickly and economically. I shoot very tight, and because of that, editing goes very quickly. We showed What's Up, Doc to the studio 3 weeks after we wrapped it up. It was the same thing with Paper Moon and Daisy Miller. Protection is a dirty word. I think running around covering things from every angle can ruin the morale on a set, particularly when you have a big, complicated setup and everybody has to work like a son of a bitch to get it right. Maybe it's a whole scene without a cut, like the shots we did in Daisy Miller, which were 15 pages without a cut, 5 minutes. You work at it for days and then you get it and everybody cheers, and then you say, now we need a little protection here in case it doesn't work. Well, they'll kill you. So a question is being asked again with scenes where you have to do several takes to get it right. Do the performances ever change? Okay, so you heard that?
Yeah.
He's asking him where scenes where you have to do several takes to get it right. Mm-hmm. Do the performance ever change? Right? Mm-hmm. He says, in movies, something happens and it only happens once. That's the difference between movie acting and stage acting. There are very few moments in my pictures that I can say are perfect. But if there are any, It's little things, like a look between two people or a line. It's nothing I could ever have planned, and usually happens in a close-up. Almost everything I'm happiest with in the pictures I've done were first takes. Almost everything I'm happiest with, he says, is first takes. There's always a bit of luck in any shot. You're hoping that something will go wrong that will make it great. A lucky accident of sorts. John Ford said that he thinks the best things in pictures happen by accident. Orson Welles said to me, a director is essentially a man who presides over accidents. What you're really trying to do when you direct a picture is create an atmosphere in which accidents will happen. Things will go a little bit wrong and you'll say, that's great, that's the one. Who knows why it's the one? Something was going through the actor's mind, or a cloud moved in a certain point. Henry Fonda told me this story about Ford director Mr. Roberts, and he said, we were shooting a scene with William Powell. He was kind of shaky and nervous. It was a long scene, about 4 or 5 pages, and Ford set up the camera. And we started to roll. It was outside on a ship, and Jesus, Bill was just terrible. His hands were shaking, and he could barely remember his lines. I was thinking, when is he going to cut? But I went on playing the scene, and we went on, and the scene was over, and Ford said, cut, print. Did you see that cloud moving there? Jesus, wasn't that a hell of a thing? What a hell of a shot that was. Now they're asking him, you said that the time to make up your mind about what the scene is about is when you're shooting it. But aren't some of these decisions also to be made in the script? No, I don't like scripts to overly define the mechanics of the film. You might indicate certain things that jump out at you, like a close-up or an establishing shot. But I don't make decisions as to where the camera is going to be until the last moment. It's important to keep yourself fresh and open to ideas, like the actor suggesting something, but basically I know what the scene is about and how many angles I need to cover it. If you have a scene that plays well in a single shot, then just leave it alone. Maybe shoot 4 or 5 takes, but forget about coverage. Ford told me about a scene with 2 actors he held for a long time, and he said, well, you can see their faces and hear what they're saying. There's no reason to cut. I asked Orson how he would define the difference between shooting a scene in one shot or cutting it up into many pieces. He said, that was what we used to say separated the men from the boys. Joseph H. Lewis was shooting a bank robbery, and I got it only with a single camera inside the car. I asked him about this entire 10-minute shot. Did he get any coverage? He said, no. A man must have courage. Okay? All right. So that's about it today, class. We had a good session today. Just to recap, we dealt with editing, structure, and screenwriting. And we're interviewing director Peter Bogdanovich and his experience on the set. So Kelso and many of the students in the class, as you can see, we shot some of our shorts this way too early in the semester, right? When we shot the woman basketball player who was jeopardizing her scholarship.
Study versus partying.
Yeah, because of a bad grade. So we created it on the spot, right? So that takes creativity. All right, so,
And a good start.
And a good start. All right, so we out of here. So until next time, class, have a good weekend.